Do I understand atheism? That's the subject of a quick quiz that I'll take today, which will also show why the religious don't have a clue. So let's go answer some questions. I tend to answer these quizzes written from the standpoint of the religious, pointing out just how poor their understanding of atheism, or of religion for that matter, actually is. This time, I thought I'd take a look at a quick quiz written by an atheist about atheism, not only to show how it ought to be done, even though I did have a couple of problems with some of the terminology, but how the religious view us even though they're wrong. So, do I understand atheism? Let's go take a look, shall we? Number 1. The average skeptical atheist position on spirit/souls is that science hasn't demonstrated any such thing exists, nor has anything else for that matter. And that's really where I think religion fails most spectacularly, is that they don't understand that the skeptical aren't going to take their word for anything. I don't care what you believe about Jesus, or God, or an afterlife, or the Bible. We're not going to believe you until you can produce objective, demonstrable evidence that your claims are factually correct in the real world. And I know that pisses the religious off, that atheists aren't nearly as emotional and gullible as they are. But too bad. Put up or shut up. Otherwise, you're just wasting everyone's time. Atheists believe science has all the answers. No. If it did, we wouldn't need science anymore because we'd know everything. Now, can science find all of the answers? Maybe. At least a vast majority of them, and the scientific method is the only way we currently have of objectively discovering demonstrable fact in the real world. Of course, this is another place that the religious just aren't happy because they want us to think that their emotionally comforting mythology is true, even though science says otherwise, or at the very least doesn't support the claims made within their holy books. And that's their problem, not ours. Maybe if they actually cared about verifying the things they believed instead of clinging to it desperately out of feelings and wishful thinking, maybe atheists might take it a bit more seriously. What definition of God or equivalent best describes what atheists do not believe? Any definition of God that has so far been presented to us. That's why we don't believe any of these various and sundry gods are real, because they simply make no rational sense and they do not stand up to any intellectual scrutiny. This is really where I draw a distinction between what feels good and what's actually true. It really doesn't matter what feels good, at least it shouldn't to anyone with half a clue. It only matters if these things are actually so. The most emotionally comforting God ever imagined is completely irrelevant if it's just a figment of your imagination. And just because you want it to be true doesn't mean that it is true. This is something that seems to confuse a lot of theists who are convinced this thing has to be real because it would be fantastic if it was, and then atheists ask them to prove it, and they just look at you like you kicked a puppy. Prove it? Why would anyone have to prove anything? These people are just not on the same intellectual or rational level that we are. Why are atheists angry at a God they don't believe in? Now this is where I start to disagree with the terminology. Atheists aren't angry at any gods because atheists don't believe any gods exist. What atheists are often peeved at are the believers in those gods who often engage in irrational or even violent and hate-filled behavior. There was a bumper sticker out there that said, "Jesus, please save me from your followers." That's what we're upset at, not any gods, any more than we're upset at Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. That's just stupid. Number 5. Atheism is a religion. Well, obviously not. There is no definition of religion into which atheism remotely fits, at least not unless you make the term so vague that it applies to pretty much anything. And the religious, the dishonest ones at least, try exactly that. They will say that any belief of any kind is a religion, which is an absurd idea to begin with. So, we'll go right to the dictionary and see that religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. Atheism specifically excludes that. Atheists can't be religious. Anyone who thinks otherwise has serious issues. Number 6. Which best describes the atheist position? Well, there is no solitary atheist position. I guess if you had to generalize, all atheists, not many, but all, disbelieve in the existence of gods. If they believed in gods, then they wouldn't be atheists by definition. Now, some atheists outrightly say that there are no gods at all, which personally I find to be kind of a faith-based position, except in those cases where said gods are logically contradictory and therefore can't exist. The only thing atheists have in common is not believing in gods. Everything else is up for grabs. According to the average atheist, what is the difference between an atheist and an agnostic? And again, I don't know that there is an average atheist, but my answer would be that atheism is based on belief, and agnosticism is based on knowledge, or at the very least, the availability of knowledge. I did a video a long time ago questioning the definition of agnosticism, since no one, absolutely no one, has any demonstrable knowledge of the existence of gods. That kind of thing simply doesn't exist. Now, that doesn't mean it can't exist, just that at present, no one actually has it because no one can actually show that their beliefs are grounded in fact. Until you can show that you have any rational basis upon which to claim knowledge, you don't have knowledge. You have belief. You have faith. Your position is not rationally justified. Now, I think that knowledge can be achieved. In fact, in order for me to believe in any god, I would have to have knowledge that that god was real, but I don't have that knowledge at present, and that's exactly why I don't believe. Number 8. The average skeptical atheist position on what is commonly called the supernatural is, there's that average word again. I think that this isn't really an atheist position, it's a skeptical position. But we can't say for certain that there is nothing supernatural, but the religious can't even define what the supernatural is, only what it isn't. As such, because we have no good definition for the term, paying any attention to such claims is absurd on its face. And this is something the religious will never acknowledge. I know, I've tried, and they can't get past the vague arm-waving platitudes that there just must be something beyond the natural because their entire belief system is predicated on it. It fits in with what they believe. It's just not anything they can prove. So, as usual, the religious are doing rationality completely ass backwards. Come back when you can produce anything that is supernatural for study. Let us know when you can even tell us what constitutes the supernatural. Until then, you're just being stupid. The average atheist position on where the universe came from is best described as, well, we just don't know for sure. We've got good evidence that points to a natural origin, but before that, if that even means anything, we've got ideas but nothing concrete, and we're honest. We might never know. That's reality. And reality gets in the way of the emotional comfort of the religious. That's why they pretend that it doesn't exist. Rationally, all we can do is go where the evidence leads. It doesn't matter how that evidence makes us feel. What's real is real, and that's what we ought to pay attention to. When your emotions get in the way of your brain, you're doing something seriously wrong. And finally, number 10. What describes the skeptical atheist view on the possibility of a God? Well, there could be a God or gods, but we have no reason to think that they're real, and thus we don't believe in them. Again, this is the rationalist position. If it can be shown to be true, if it can be even demonstrated to be likely to be true, then accepting it as truth, at least provisionally, is fine. But if you can't do that, then you have no business of any kind pretending that it's real. And this makes butthurt theists all over the place because they don't like that. They don't like having to set aside their emotions and operate on intellect. It makes them sad. Well, too bad. If someone could present objectively verifiable evidence for a God, any God, I would believe that God was real. Whether or not I'd worship it, that's a different story based on whether or not it had earned my respect or adoration. But I would accept reality as it demonstrably is. That's absolutely the case. Why can't the religious do that? And so, as is no surprise, I passed the quiz. I know what atheism is, and the religious, sorry to say, do not. And it's not like we haven't told them time and time again. They just don't care what we say because they're not really talking to us. They're not really interested in what we have to say. Everything they do is preaching to the choir, to people who have a vested interest in maintaining a false view of the enemy because it fits into their emotionally comforting narrative. The facts are inconvenient, therefore they don't exist. I keep wondering if they care that they misrepresent us, and I don't think they do. They have blind faith that we are the boogeymen that they want us to be, and when we turn out to not be the monsters of their dreams, they'd rather remain asleep so they can cling to their fantasies rather than having to wake up and face the facts. Every single solitary debate against the religious where this has come up has proven this to me. I have had them tell me that I don't believe what I tell them I believe. Apparently, they know more about my beliefs than I do. Except they don't. They don't know much about anything. All it takes is watching their videos and talking to them to prove that. I mean, I do this 4 times a week, every week. They don't know what they're doing. If they took this quiz, they'd fail. I doubt anyone would be surprised, and we all know they wouldn't care.
Bum